Good morning. Happy Saturday morning, everybody, and happy birthday to all those beautiful babies that were born this morning and in the past. If you're 196 years old, going on 197, good morning to you. Anyway, the warnings and all the red tape and stuff this morning out of the way. I'm already down to half a cup of coffee because I'm too lazy to make a pot. So I'm using instant. Anyways, don't judge me. Don't hate me. Just listen. FBI warning. Warning, Will Robinson warning. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, and exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, and video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called the Fair Use Act and is allowed for purposes of criticism, which I do. Okay, not harshly, but I try to. News reporting, which I do. Teaching, which I try to do. Parody, yeah, with spoofing, parody, yeah, I do that, joking around. Who doesn't? Which doesn't infringe upon the copyright under Section 17, subsection 107. Okay. Furthermore, Nighthawk High Strange's podcast channel claims fair use of any and all content, that's any and all content, to be used for the sole purpose of informing you, the viewing family, of information for educational purposes and general knowledge only, per Title 17 USC subsection 107. All righty. Now, man, anybody remember that tiny little car commercial that the guy used to talk real fast in the 80s and you couldn't understand what he was saying? That kind of felt like I was that guy right there for a second. Anyways, let me put this other on the screen here, and I'm going to use my professional voice. This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine. Okay, get that out of there. And let's put something on the screen so you don't have to stare at my mug this morning. Let's see. What will it be? What will it be? Let's try that. That's pretty creepy. Yeah. I'm not even sure if that's an actual... Yeah, I guess it is. That is the one I took. Okay. All right. Okay. That, my friends... No, it's not the Mad Hatter. We're not into the rabbit hole tonight. Or this morning, I should say tonight. Wow. I'm already trying. I'm in Australian time. Oh, imagine that. Let me see here. Uh-oh. No comments. There they are. They're hiding on me. Let me say a good morning to everybody. starting from the beginning. Wow, we already got that many comments. Good morning, Darcy. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Larry. Tombstone, good day. Tombstone, good day. Midwest Night Watchers. Gerald, good morning. Primal Cry, good morning. Good to see you on here. Joey Z, my friend Joey Z, good to see you, brother. My beautiful wife Tracy, good morning, Tracy. And let's see, who else we got on here? Scott, good morning. Karen, good morning. Okay, I think that's everybody. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I missed anybody. I'll say hello after a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and bring my brother Dennis on. Let me take this picture off of here so we can see Dennis in his all his glory on Saturday morning. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back to that picture. And hide it. There we go. Ooh, God. Good God Almighty. I should have brought him on. All right. There we go.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning. How are we doing this morning?
Running on a little less sleep than usual. I got woke up about 4 o'clock this morning by a
You
dream,
too.
which is a dream that's going to make a great little short story. So I'm going to have to write that down today. But I'm kind of like Robert Louis Stevenson. He wrote the Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from a dream. And I don't think this will be that popular, but anyway, it's a great idea for a short story, and it'd be right up your alley. So you might want to read it when I get it done. It's gonna be about cryptids.
There we go.
It was a really interesting dream. You should have been there.
You all got to. I know a lot of them. Primal Cry and a few of the others out there in the chat. Tombstone. Everybody knows D.A. Roberts. Most everybody knows D.A. Roberts and his podcast, the Ex Machina, and they're on Saturday nights, all that at 9 o'clock Eastern, I believe, and on Wednesday nights. But his latest book that he wrote, he actually asked my permission if he could have one of the characters in his book, basically, designed up, based on me. And I told him, yeah, that's fine with me. So you guys got to get his next book. He'll probably kill me off in it, I mean, but it might be.
That's kind of like that picture I saw the other day. The girl's reading. So I love this character. Oh wait a minute, he just got killed. So,
yeah.
There he goes. In the writing business.
Yeah. He just got shot in the head, and they, and decapitated by an armed cryptid. So.
Well, it's a pretty good honor. That's a distinctive honor to be mentioned in a book. My friend Nick Redfern put me in one of his books about the Men in Black, and so it's a pretty good honor to have that done. Definitely.
Yep. I appreciate that. And once his book comes out, I hope everybody go out there and buy it. So get him to autograph it, and we'll go from there. So. But
well, our government the other day just elected the Woman of the Year, and it's a man. So there you go. I'm not going there. Today.
I want to. I want to so bad. I really do. All right.
This is it. if anybody were to write this in a book, nobody believes it. Okay.
Well, if aliens did show up here, they're going to say the first thing out of their mouth is going to go, "There's no intelligent life down here. Let's get the hell out of here.
Let's leave. Let's go. There's nothing here to see." Okay. But anyway, I don't. I don't know. I don't know. Then they had another week. What's going on with the train derailments? By the way, are we under some kind of a sabotage attack or something? It's weird.
Honestly, I think that between the infrastructure crumbling because all the executives decided to pocket the money that they were given to repair things, I think that's part of it. And I do think part of it is sabotage. I can't say the name of the group because that would be bullying. So,
right.
I don't want to bully terrorists.
Well,
we
no,
don't really.
we don't want to do that.
No. So, anyways,
we must
they know who they are.
Against that. We must be vigilant against that.
Yep.
But,
they know who they are. So, but yeah, it's definitely acts of sabotage. So, I actually believe too, Dennis. Not to cut you off, I actually believe too, Dennis, that a lot of the stuff going on with our farming community and all that, and the fires and the food industry, I think that's sabotage too.
Oh yeah. Well, when it comes to the trains and rails, if you've ever picked up a piece of rail off of the train rail, and I have, and that's not an interesting thing to do, by the way. I wouldn't advise you do it. We're talking about some really heavy-duty major steel here. And for you to manipulate that, it would definitely have to be some form of sabotage. It just doesn't wear out like that easy. You know what I mean? Although the infrastructure is old in this country, some of the highways, especially around here in my state, it's like driving over a railroad track. You got so many potholes and patches. Especially, I've noticed, have you ever noticed this driving? If you're in the right lane, if you're on like a four-way highway, if you're in the right lane, you've got a whole lot more potholes on the side over there than you do in a left lane. You ever notice that?
Yep.
What's going on with that? Is that where the ice and all that does something or what? That's weird.
Yeah, I went to turn around the other day, and while driving, and my wife Tracy goes, "Well, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I missed one pothole back there. I want to go back and hit it."
You hate to miss one. You really do. Yeah.
Anyways,
it's bad luck. I think it's bad luck, actually.
Yeah.
Since we're going to be talking about spirits today, and it's an interesting thing, you know what the motorcycle bell is? The little bells that hang on the motorcycle, and a lot of people don't know what they're for. And actually, here's the story right quick of the motorcycle bells. Demons are attracted to bells. They have a love-hate relationship with bells. Demons are attracted by bells. They get their attention, but they hate bells because bells are sort of like connected with the songs of angels, sort of a thing. But anyway, demons hate bells that much. And if you put a bell on your motorcycle, it will attract the demons of the road to your bell. And they'll go up in your bell, and the bell's ringing, and they confuse them, and they fall out, hit the ground, and that's what makes the pothole. So that's the story of the demon bell.
Cool. Good morning, man.
That's where potholes come from. Yeah. Little demons.
Good morning. Good morning, BBD Warrior. All right. I think I got all the good mornings out of the way. Hey, I'm kind of interested in hearing about your dream, unless it's kind of one of them, super like excited, sexy dreams. I don't want to hear that. So, but
you'll read about it soon enough. Okay. I think it's going to be a good little short story, and it's going to be sort of artistic too. I think I have had, it's strange how your mind keeps working even when you're asleep,
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
finally went to sleep last night about 1 o'clock, and about 4 o'clock, this dream woke me up. And I'm sitting there, I said, oh, I'll go back to sleep, but no, this is too good to pass up. I've got to make a note on this so I won't forget it. And
Yeah.
so I have dreamed a lot of things and stuff that I have written, especially fiction.
Yeah.
I've actually had some very vivid dreams. I think it's your mind, the subconscious mind, keeps working, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. I couldn't get to sleep till probably about 3:30 in the morning because I've been trying to fight this little hairy creature that comes running around. And no, I'm not talking Jacob. Um, we have a mouse in the
Uh,
house, and
Mouse House.
being spring and going warmer to cold. It's trying its darndest to come in. So imagine the great Native American warrior with his spear sitting on the couch in the middle of the night. You
Waiting for
know,
that rat.
yeah. So, but yeah, that's the way my night
Well,
went.
if you still got some cats out there, you ought to let them in for a while. They would probably take care of your problem for you.
They're probably the other reason the mouse wants in.
Jacob might not like it though. He might
Yeah,
not go along with that idea too well.
yeah.
Uh,
Jacob has definitely got
y'all,
good hearing though. He hears it before we do. So
yeah, well, he's probably got territorial issues, knowing that's his house. He's the boss. He's the he's the house boss. Okay, that's what I call my dog. I call my dog Zach the house boss, and I call my cat the yard boss. So they got their different districts. They don't like to overlap too much.
too bad Arizona couldn't figure that out. Come voting. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Oh boy, you're getting
Well,
me in trouble.
you might want to do like Jane
That's a
Fonda.
news
I think
segment.
yesterday when she mentioned murder, but that's a
Yeah,
joke. It was a joke,
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, that's
get away with it by saying it's a joke.
that little thing about Arizona was part of the news segment. So we'll cover that under news. So
Yeah.
news you need to know. Anyways,
I do know that Jane is one of your favorite movie stars, right? We won't go there either. Let's not go there either. But
hey,
anyway,
anyways, about must have been about 2:30 in the morning. I got a reply to a text message I sent to Da Roberts, and because I know he's up at night when he writes. He writes until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then he goes to bed. Anyways, I sent him something on the flat Earth theory, and some a video. I think I sent it to you too. Um, and he started questioning me about it and the whole inner Earth theory. And I said, well, where in the hell you think all these cryptids are coming from, and all these weird animals? I said they're not coming from outer space. And I said they're coming from inner space. you know, I mean, some of them,
that's
some
like
of them.
we've talked so many times before, William, about the strange connection between Bigfoot, Dogman, even many of these cryptids and the subterranean caverns.
Yeah,
There's got to be a definite connection.
yeah,
I don't see how
yeah.
there couldn't be.
Exactly. So, as far as the ghost part of it goes, you know, you have the floor, my brother. It's all you. So, whatever you want to, discuss about the ghost, I'll be monitoring the chat. Hopefully,
Okay.
if
Well, the ghost. Okay, throughout the human history, there's always been ghosts, and I used to do a lot of presentations at schools with the little kids when they used to allow that, and they love the ghost stories. They would come up to me later and say, Mr. Carroll, do you believe in ghosts? But I would always be a little ambiguous. I didn't want to scare them. I didn't want to get to them. And they start to. I believe in ghost stories. And ghost stories are a very big part of our culture. Once upon a time, every family had more than their one share of ghost stories. When I was a kid growing up, that was one of our forms of entertainment, was to sit around and get the old folks talking about ghosts and stuff like that, the weird thing that had happened. And I remember cataloging a lot of that in my mind. It's still there to this day. And the number one thing about ghosts is I do believe they exist because I have seen them. With like I said the other night, seeing is believing to a certain extent. And I've seen them. Matter of fact, I've seen the holy grail of spirit research, and that is the full-bodied apparition. Um, there are different types of supposed ghosts, though. I'm not going to go deep into that, but there are the residual type ghosts, and then you have what we would call active ghosts, and then of course you have demonic spirits. You have evil spirits, which can be human spirits sometimes, not basically demonic. And you have good spirits, which can also be human spirits or angelic spirits. So you've got different types of ghosts, ghosts are basically spirits, the same interchangeable word. They're the same thing. So you've got this major bulwark of our culture worldwide. It's not just us; it's all over the world. It's in that paranormal list we talk about all the time. It has so many of the same things in it everywhere, no matter where you go. Witches, giants, dragons, ghosts, shapeshifters. So the list goes on, and ghosts are the number one on the list because everyone just about everywhere believes or has some kind of a belief in spirits. If you go back to the biblical times, and I talk about the Bible a lot because it is one of the oldest books in existence. I said one, not the, but one of the oldest books in existence. The ghosts are mentioned in the Bible several times. The most famous case of all was the Witch of Endor case, and I think a lot of you know about that, where the King Saul of Israel wanted to talk with Samuel, the prophet of God, and Samuel had passed away. He was gone. He had died, and he went to a witch, a sorceress, and it doesn't say whether it was a man or a woman. It could have been either one. We really don't know. I kind of feel like it might have been a woman because of the reaction that went on. But Saul went and he told the witch of Endor, "Call me up, Samuel. I got to talk to him." Because he had a very, very important battle the next day with a Philistine. And he was really worried about it. He was a wavering man of faith. One day he believed, another day he wouldn't. The Bible says that Saul had a spirit that would come over him every now and then. So he was kind of somewhat demonically influenced to certain occasions. And he may have had some type of a mental illness as well. So we can't go too deep in that because there's not a whole lot of evidence on it. But the Bible does say that about Saul. So Saul said, "Call me up, Samuel. I've got to talk to him." So it seemed like that was a pretty well-known thing to do back in those days. You could actually contact the dead, and the Bible does specifically lay out rules against you contacting the dead. You're not supposed to do that, and so that tells you right there that you can do it. The dead are there for you to contact. Now, Jesus also talked about it. I'll get to that in a moment, but let me go back to the Witch of Endor. The Witch of Endor called up Samuel, and all of a sudden, Samuel appeared. The witch immediately passed out because I think she was more or less a charlatan. She was more or less a con artist. I don't think she really expected the real Samuel to show up, and when he did, she immediately passed out because of it. She was so frightened by it. So, anyway, that tells you that there were ghosts because this was the real Samuel. A lot of people say, "Oh, it was a trick of the devil and all that." No, I think it was actually Samuel because he was still a true prophet. A true prophet of God doesn't tell you anything false. A true prophet of God always gives you the truth because that's what God is concerned with, the truth. And this was Samuel, without a doubt, because he told Saul this prophecy. He said, "Where I am today, Saul, so shall you be tomorrow." And sure enough, the next day, Saul died on the battlefield. He fell on his own sword. He committed suicide because he lost the battle and the Philistines were against him. He didn't have any faith, and he fell on his own sword. And I think his son died too. So it was a bad ending for Saul, but he was warned by the prophet, the ghost of Samuel, the prophet Samuel. So you do have ghosts in the Bible. And you know, Jesus talked about when he was resurrected, he appeared in the room to his disciples, and he said something very interesting. They were scared to death. Of course, this was the guy they buried 3 days before, and here he is back again. So they were scared to death, and he said, "No, no, calm down. Calm down. You can touch me if you want to. Does a spirit have flesh?" That's a very interesting. He said, "I'm not a ghost. Touch me," which is a very interesting statement because Jesus was not a normal death. He was a resurrection. Now, there's another resurrection in the Bible that's talked about, the resurrection of Lazarus. Lazarus was dead in the grave for 3 days. And his sister came to Jesus and said, "Lord, if you'd have been here, you never would have died. And he said, Jesus looked at her and said, "But he will live again." And she laughed kind of, but he's already smelling bad probably by now. He's been in the grave 3 days. They didn't embalm people back in those days. Or they put spices and stuff on them to hold it back, but it didn't help a whole lot. But anyway, Jesus did something very interesting after that. He prayed a prayer. And he said, here's what he said in his prayer. He said, "Father, I know you can do this. I'm praying because of them. I want them to see me connect with you. I know you can do this. I'm not worried about it, but this is for their faith." And he turned around and had them roll back the tomb, the door of the tomb. And he said, "Lazarus, come forth." And Lazarus, the dead Lazarus, came walking out of that tomb alive again. That's not a ghost, okay? Because he was alive again. He was resurrected, but not the same way that Jesus was, because Jesus was resurrected in a spiritual sense. But Lazarus was resurrected in a physical sense. This was one of the greatest miracles in the Bible, was the raising of Lazarus. Now, there was another Lazarus Jesus taught about. Here's another interesting spiritual concept. There was another Lazarus who begged at the rich man's gate for the food off of his table. He'd throw crumbs to this poor beggar. And Lazarus died and went to heaven. But he wanted to go back and warn his brother. Lazarus died and went to hell. He wanted to go back and warn his brothers that not to do the things he did because he ended up in hell. But he was told you can't do that because there's a great gulf between the living and the dead. There's a big space, some kind of dimensional shift thing going on here between the living and the dead. We call it in terms of the veil that separates life and death. As Edgar Allan Poe talked about in some of his works, the veil. Sometimes during certain times of the year and in certain places, that veil can become thinner. But the spirits of the dead are still reachable according to biblical theology. But the Bible warns you not to converse with them. That is what we call necromancy. Necromancy is fooling around with the dead, talking to them, trying to get information from them. Now, I have known people that have gone to great cemeteries and would go to certain graves, and you could put voice recorders on them, and ask questions of whoever was buried there, and sometimes they would give answers.
Mhm.
You can actually, I've heard a lot of
Yep.
EVPs that have come out that way. Yeah, but really, basically, I think what you're dealing with is demonic. It's not really the people that are buried there. I don't think that when you die, you're going to hang around your body for very long. Okay, that's when you vacate the premises of your human body, I don't think you're going to linger around it long. Usually, you might for a while, but not for several years and not for decades. You're not going to hang around it because it's slowly deteriorating, going away. What need you? The connection would be broken. Okay, as the Bible says, the golden bowl is broken. Life is gone there from that vessel. But I think a lot of what people encounter in these cemeteries are evil spirits because they are drawn to places of the dead. That's just part of their being. The greatest story about the demon act in the Bible, he was out in a cemetery, hanging around. That's where the demons had him, out in the graveyard. So I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me an important question about that. They say, how can demons be on consecrated ground? Well, usually they can't. They're not allowed to be on consecrated ground because it is a holy, venerated place, just like in churches. But hey, a lot of demons show up at church. Sometimes they can supersede that. But basically, your regular graveyard is not consecrated. Only churchyards are consecrated, mainly. Not the regular cemeteries like Forest Lawn and some of these places. They're not consecrated ground. That's the big difference between a churchyard and a graveyard. That's the big difference, is the consecration of ground, the blessing of those places. So you might run into anything in a graveyard, more so than you would a churchyard. But demons do show up at church. The demons I saw many, many years ago were in a church, okay? So it's not that far-fetched that they can't show up in a holy place, because they are usually ordered or sent to these places for a reason, okay? They have their orders to fulfill. But anyway, getting back to ghosts, spiritual things of that. I don't believe you're going to hang around your body. I believe the connection is broken. You're not going to be hanging around there. Who knows where you go. Sometimes, and I have seen evidence my own self, that these spirits may be held back from going to where their final reward is, whether that be heaven or hell or whatever the situation may be. I think you can be held back. You can be confused or lost, lost spirits. What you basically are running into when you talk about ghosts, human spirits, they are usually lost or confused, or they are still under bondage by demonic spirits. That's another possibility. So when you deal with ghosts, it's not trying to communicate with us. I never did that. I never sat around trying to figure out what the late great Uncle Bill could tell me about next week's lottery. I did. That wasn't what I was there for. I was there to test and try these spirits to see what kind of spirits they were, why they were there, and if I might perhaps help them in some way. And it is a good thing to be able to help a confused person or a spirit, for that matter, to figure out what they need to do if they're lost and confused. I've run into that problem. I call that a soul rescue. Really, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. Can I ask you one question, Dennis? I've always had the belief that answer this question is yes. But I want to get your insight on it. When it comes to the spirit realm, the ghost world, whatever you want to call it, do you believe that if we move to a higher dimension of being, that we can relate and actually act with the spirit world? And what I mean by that, I'm talking about like going from 3D to 4D and having the ability to communicate with the spirit world on a more normal basis. That type of theory.
Well, I think that when we die, we immediately usher ourselves into a higher form of being. Uh, as you know, we've talked about this before. You are a living soul. You have a body, you have a spirit, you have an intellect, you have all these things, and that's what makes you a living soul. But you have a spirit. Well, the spirit is set free from the body in that respect. I think we're moving on to a higher spiritual level kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Well, right. But what I'm
not
saying,
okay. Go ahead.
what is basically what if, like, say I walk through a portal today, okay, and I enter dimension, okay, in my living body. Do you think that I would have some way of communicating with the spirit world dimension?
It depends.
Do you think
It
that is
depends.
possible, or
It depends on your own abilities in some respects. It depends on how much of a spiritual person you are. If you go into another dimension, the whole game may be changed. You know what I'm saying? It may not be what we're dealing with here. So you're operating on another level of what you know. It's kind of like that Twilight Zone episode. You remember that about the little girl that fell through the wall into another dimension? You know, Little Girl Lost was the name of it, and they could hear her, but they couldn't see her. She went through the wall. She was in another dimension, but they could still hear her. You understand? But she was getting fainter and fainter and fainter because she was wandering away from her point of entry into that dimension, that portal, you know. And the family dog, could hear her. He jumped in and went through the wall and saved her, brought her back to the point where she was wandering away from. Because in another dimension, all perception of depth and width and all that would be completely off kilter. You wouldn't be in the same existence anymore. It's the only way you can explain that, you know. So if you're not in the same reality that we're in right now, you're dealing with a different ball game altogether. That's all I can say. I haven't been there. I can't tell you for sure, you know. But you're dealing. But I have talked with a lot of people, and you yourself have had that experience, of that, death experience, near death experience, where they say things are changed, their perception is changed. You ever notice that? They say they can see things better, they can hear things when they couldn't normally physically hear or see because they're laying there knocked out and all that, or they may be pumped up with drugs, but yet they outside of their body they can see. They said, I've had people say, I could hear, a gnat sneeze. I mean, my hearing was better than it ever had been. My sight was better. They were in a completely different, I guess you would say, reality. You know, that's the only way you look at it. And when you deal with the spirit realm, you're going into a different reality. Because, like I say, I think when we die and leave our body, we're going into a higher being or a higher existence than what we were in, in that respect. Which is why I think Jesus was not a ghost like you and I are. When he resurrected, he had a new body. That's why he told him, and here's the reason why he told him not to touch him, okay? He said, don't touch. He said in one minute, a lot of people say this is a contradiction in the Bible. But Jesus was actually using an example, said, go touch me. He wasn't really telling him to touch him. But touch me is I'm not a ghost. That's basically what he's saying. It was an example. But later on, he goes and tells him, don't touch me, because there was a Jewish belief that it was not a good thing to touch the dead. You know, they didn't believe in that. They didn't believe, if you go to a Jewish cemetery today, you will not find them commemorating like you will have flowers on graves and stuff. They don't do that very much. they don't commemorate the body as much like in ways that we do. You know what I'm saying? They have different outlooks and beliefs in their burial
Right.
systems and everything. Uh, they believed it was very unclean to touch a dead human body after a certain period of time. So you're dealing with beliefs and all that. You gotta take it from the context of what was going on in that period of time. But I think it's very interesting that Jesus mentions ghosts as if they are a reality, a thing that is, apparent. And you see so many hints of that in the Bible. And the reason I
Right.
talk about the Bible a lot, it is one of the oldest books, you know, that that tells us a lot of these spiritual concepts. And that's what we can go by. They're guides. Um, but when you talk about spirits, and a lot of people don't like for me to do this, but you have to talk about demonic spirits because they are spirits too. You know what I'm saying? They're ghosts as well. A ghost is a spirit, and a spirit is a
Yeah.
ghost. They're interchangeable,
Yeah.
but they are ghosts as well, but maybe not ghosts of people.
I, I gotta say, I gotta say something here about the Bible and about my whole flat Earth theory. Okay, you know, I have to say something. Say is those of you that have this version, open it up to Isaiah 24 and read it, and tell how you can turn a marble upside down. That's all I got to say.
Well, the Bible also mentions the four corners of the earth. How can you have corners on a round globe? Huh? That's another
Yeah.
interesting thing. Anyway, there's a lot of clues in the Bible, and a lot of clues in a lot of history books, not just the Bible. A lot of things that you can go back and and check on these things, and you can find those clues, those patterns we've always talked about, especially when it comes to spiritual research. But like I say, there can be spirits, and I go on with that. There can be human spirits that are bound to earth by something that they needed to do, or something they left undone, or something they needed to communicate. That has happened many, many times. That can be something that's holding them back too, as well, from going on to their reward, whatever it may be. One of my most interesting cases that I ran into was that of a small boy who had been run over and killed in front of his house. And the people that lived in this house had actually seen the spirit of this little child on several occasions. And he would run to the yard. The interesting thing was he would go from the road where he was killed and run into the yard in front of this house and just slowly disappear, just dissipate. And the woman that lived there felt so
Mm-hmm.
bad for this child, and who wouldn't really? She came to me and said, "Mr. Carroll, we need to do something. We need to do something because it's a horrible thing to I don't know if he was still recreating what happened to him, but he was, I think, still feeling the after effects of it to a certain extent. It was hung up like
Right.
this thing and this thing and this certain thing." And so I said, "Well, let's see what we can do." And I talked to the little boy. I found out what his name was. I think his name was William, by the way. But I need to call him Billy. And I said, Billy, I want you to listen to me now. I want to talk to you a minute, okay, Billy?" And I just went out there. I guess people thought I was crazy standing out in the middle of this yard talking to myself, you know. But that was where he was, he was supposed to appear and disappear. And I said, "Now, Billy, I want you to listen close to what I'm trying to tell you. Listen to me. I got his attention." And another way I did, I rang a bell. That's a long story. We'll get into that some other time, the bell booking candle thing. But I rang a bell. That's supposed to get the attention of nearby spirits. And I said, "Billy, I want you to listen to me. There's another place for you to be. You don't need to stay here. There's another place for you to go. Mom and Dad, they're not here anymore. And there's another place with another father for you who's waiting for you with open arms if you'll go to the light. And it's a long story. I won't go into the whole thing, but that's basically my message I gave to him. And since that day, I always had, and all of a sudden I had a feeling of calm come over me. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what else transpired there, but I felt a peace come over me. And from that day to this day, he has not ever been seen again, which is good. I like that. That's the one thing. That's one ghost I don't ever want to see again. And that was good because I never heard any more reports of that. So maybe he went to the light where he needed to go.
Good.
But you run into those spirits that are trapped like that, or caught, hung up, I call them. But yeah, there are some spirits I think that are held back.
Well, so what?
Regrets. Regret can be a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Regret.
What do you think, Dennis? The connection then, spirit world with the shadow beings, the shadow people that everybody are seeing. That we have that theory of red eyes and all that with the cryptids. Do you believe the red eyes also, for the second part of the question, represent the demonic in the shadow people? Do you believe there's a difference in the shadow people?
Well, the shadow people is a very interesting thing, William. They can be different things. Actual human spirits can appear as shadow people sometimes. You have to know here's again another situation where you've got to try these spirits to understand what you're dealing with. They could possibly be human spirits. I think some of them can be elemental type spirits, and some of them definitely are demonic spirits. And by elemental, they could also be some type of dimensional creatures. There's different varieties of these shadow beings, and so you have to figure out what it is you're dealing with, whether it's some type of a interdimensional being, which sometimes these shadow people describe as being flat and two-dimensional or longitated type shadows, stick figures, as some people call them. I think those could possibly be interdimensional type beings or entities, or as I call them, passing through from one perhaps realm to another, from one dimension to another. It could be something like that. Then you have the shadow figures that can actually be spiritual type things, like people. I know there's one instance where this woman died in a house, and her shadow was supposedly seen at certain times of the evening on the wall. And this was not a demonic spirit, of course. This was supposedly a residual type thing. It appeared. I think it finally went away, never came back, but it was a residual type haunting. But that would not have been a demonic thing. Now, demonic shadow beings, usually, like you said, they have the red eyes. They have different attributes about them, and usually they're very threatening. Like the very famous Hat Man, the one that supposedly wears a hat. He's very demonic. And so you have different types of these beings. So there again, I suppose say you need to bone up on what it is you're actually trying to face, whether it's that kind of interaction you've got going on there with different types of beings. Um, the Hat Man is one of the most malevolent of them all, and I actually have talked to some people who have run into this guy. And he has appeared in many different areas to different people over different centuries, by the way. So that's what makes me think he is very demonic in his attribute. I've even had a run in with the demonic spirits from one location to another that knew me by name. And I had no way to know that, but they knew me by name. So they have a network, okay? I won't get into that today because that's another show for nothing but demons. But they have a network. And whereas then I don't think human spirits have a network that per se that way. Human spirits are definitely not organized in the manner that demons are. but I won't get into that either today. But anyway, you know what type of a thing you're dealing with, and you've got one leg up in the saddle. You're not gonna have a bad situation if you know what you're dealing with and how to deal with it. You don't want to end up crying in your cornflakes. You want to do this the right way, and you want to handle it the right way. So there's certain ways you have to approach this uh, in order to ascertain what's going on. But to me, some of the most fascinating apparitional type ghosts are the shadow beings. I've dealt with them. I've run into them on a lot of occasions. And but when it comes to different demonic beings who have different attributes, take the guardian demon for instance. They are usually invoked in a place to guard and hold an area, and they often have to have sacrifices. Matter of fact, one time I was almost sacrificed by one. I was pushed down a long flight of stairs by a guardian demon who attacked me from behind. Luckily, I had a good rail I could hold on to, or I would have been in bad trouble. But these things approach you in different ways. Usually, a shadow being is just sort of seen out of the corner of the eye or just passing through. And like I say, those two-dimensional types are very famous for that. They're sort of very quick and they're gone, kind of a thing. And then the other shadow, which I said is more like human spirit type shadow beings, they linger a little bit longer. They're not so fast going through. They're not fast track. So you got to understand when you talk about shadow beings what it is exactly you're facing. They're different ones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I don't. I just know my dealings of them are definitely the red-eyed ones are definitely the evil, demonic, and the yeah,
Some of
and
them
the
can be
regular
very.
ones just yeah, yeah, the regular ones just seem very, very curious, because they're always peeping, in around something to look at you or to see what you're up to. Um,
We
then
are.
you have the whole,
Here's an interesting
the whole,
thing about
you have
spirits.
the whole, yeah,
Here's an interesting thing about spirits. They are interested in us. They are watchers. That was their first original name, some of them. And they are very interested in us. And I think even human spirits are interested in what we're doing sometimes. So you may have some shadow peekers sometimes. You may have some that kind of are curious at what you're doing and all that, and it may not be just residual going about their own thing, and ignoring you completely. But then the shadow beings that are so dangerous are the ones that choke you or strangle you. They jump on you and attack you physically, are mainly demonic in their conception.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree with you. They can be some very
yeah.
mean ones out
Now,
there.
let me ask you this. I've often contemplated this too, and I'm going to put it out to the people in the chat too. Primal Cry, Dark Woods, Steven, Gerald, everybody that's out there, Tombstone. Um, what do you think about the possibility of some shadow beings or shadow people um, being some of the people that walk through and disappear realm back in, or trying to figure out a way to communicate?
I think those
What do
are
you
the
think about that
interdimensional.
possibility?
I think those are the interdimensional type beings. I think they're passing through, and they're very curious sometimes too. But like I said, they're faster. They move faster. They're quicker. You catch a glimpse of them. And they're two-dimensional. They're flat-looking. They
Well,
can be
this,
elongated. They can
but
be like stick figures.
right, but I'm what I'm asking is people that say walk through a portal, just normal everyday Joe Blow from Idaho. Okay, oh, sorry about anybody living in Idaho. I didn't mean that. But anyways, normal person walks through a portal. 3 years later, you start seeing shadow figures and stuff, peeping around trees or peeping around doorways and all that in your home, where the reported person that turned up was missing from. Do you think that has a possibility of maybe being that individual trying to figure out, well, hey, there's somebody living here now, or there's somebody here that I can try to communicate with? Can I maybe try and make it back into my world where I came from?
It could be, William. It could be they're stuck in between realities, in a way. They could be trying. For all we know, some of them may be trying to communicate with us. They could be somebody that disappeared through a portal, but they can't get back. They may can see us, and we can't. Like Jesus talked about in the Bible, I mentioned earlier about that gulf between Lazarus and his brothers. He could see his brothers, but they could not see him. So you're talking about dimensional type things. Anything, it's a wide open game. Anything could happen in that situation. And these may be people stuck in between realities, and all we can see are these flat looking shadow type things. That would not be that far out of the realm of possibility when you're dealing with portals. I've never actually been through a portal. I think I've been close by, but I've never actually went from one side of a portal to the other. But you might never come back. There's that possibility too. Like that little girl Lost I told you about with the Twilight Zone. She was lucky her dog got her back. Because if she had wandered far enough away, she could have never got back. That would have been it, But the dog was instinctive. The dog could go through. Here's the interesting facet of that story. The dog could do what the humans couldn't do, because the dog perceived reality in a different way.
See, I kind of picture the extended universe in this manner, because it says, in the Bible about in my Father's mansion there are many mansions. Okay, I picture our whole existence basically as a wall full of doorways and mirrors. Okay, and you can open up a door to go to another part of the universe per se. Okay, or you can go to a mirror and go to another dimension per se. That's the way I picture basics traveling from other dimensions and stuff. It's because it's the simplest way to describe it to somebody. It's like a wall filled with doors, and the doors aren't numbered, so you don't know where you're going to go, and the mirrors aren't numbered, so you don't know where you're going to go. And, you basically pick one and boom, somebody from the realm that you open the doorway to, sees a shadow figure. Well, maybe that shadow figure is the one going through the doorway. You know what I mean? It's that kind of a theory that
You've seen videos. I know you have, probably on the YouTube and all that, where the steering wheel will be on the other side of the car when it's not really. It's not in England. The video is reversed. So what you're talking about with that might possibly be, a reversal type thing going on. You know what I'm saying? So you've got that possibility when you go into another different reality and different dimension. But when you talk about spirit research, you've got so many different interesting facets and all that. But like I say, necromancy is always been looked upon as a bad thing. That's sort of trying to get communication from the spirit for the wrong purposes, for the wrong things. dealing with them in that way. That's why the Bible speaks so highly against communicating with the dead. It's not that they're not going to impart a unknown knowledge. I don't think. I think it's just something that disturbs the balance of the universe to a certain extent. And it may be something having to do with dimensions for all we know. But anyway, make a long story short, I think that there is that gulf there, that big divide between life and death. And in certain instances, there may be inroads in it. There may be these portals. There may be these sort of like passages from one side to the other briefly, you know, um, unless somebody's stuck on the other side. That's another thing too. Like we said earlier about spirits that have left something unfinished, or they're trapped by demonic spirits. I've often said that if you die possessed by demonic spirits, that bondage does not end with your death. Sometimes it can go on unless somebody comes along and actually instigates an end to that bondage, or some circumstances do. Um, I believe that I believe that to be very true in certain instances, but it's very rare. It doesn't happen, I don't think, a lot. And I've often said this about ghosts and everything. They're not as prevalent as Hollywood would get you to, or ghost hunters would get you to believe. A lot of times, unfortunately, these people are interacting with demonic spirits, not human spirits, because demonic spirits fool you into believing you are dealing with that. That's what they want to do, to lead you down the wrong way, to misdirect you, and they're very good at misdirection. But sometimes, if you do run into the human spirit, there are certain telltale signs. If you know your demonic spirits, you'll know what you're dealing with in many aspects, because eventually demons give themselves away. That's just how stupid they can be.
Yeah.
But human spirits have an intelligence to them, that is different from the demonic intelligence. That's the one side, sure sign there in that respect. But I remember Ed and Lorraine Warren had a very famous case and they actually recorded the voices. I got a recording of it somewhere, where they recorded the voices of supposed two ghosts that were in this. It was in Britain, I think, but they weren't really human ghosts. They were demons. They were masquerading as human ghosts. But that was a very
I've come across that a lot in my investigations. A lot of my investigations. I've come across a lot. Disguising themselves as children or adults talking, or even toys and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that's very much like
it's amazing how they
the poltergeist. The noisy ghost.
I want to say hi to Katie. So, it's almost now. Would you poltergeist? Okay. Obviously, you had, and I've had experiences with poltergeist too, with objects being thrown around and all that, and things being turned up missing, and the next day they turn back up. Do you believe that a poltergeist is more of a demonic connection, or more of a earth-based connection from somebody that's projecting that type of activity from themselves?
I think some poltergeists may be demonic, definitely. I think there are different types of poltergeists. I won't get in too deep to that. It's an interesting study. But I think some poltergeists are brought about by the kinetic energy of pre-adolescent children, usually girls, but it can be boys as well sometimes. But the pre-adolescent type energy that they're giving out, some type of a psychic energy, can bring about poltergeist activity. But there are other poltergeists that are definitely demonic in their respect. And here's an interesting telltale sign of that. The human spirit can move this piece of paper Okay, the demonic spirit would pick this desk up and throw it. They have a greater strength about them, the demonic does, than the human spirit. And poltergeists can be very destructive. They can almost tear a house to pieces. They can throw furniture around. They can throw things, scratch people. That sounds very demonic to me in its conception. But some poltergeists just communicate by rapping or knocking on walls or hiding stuff and all that. That sounds more like an adolescent type connection thing, you know.
Yeah.
You have different types.
Bigfoot, Michigan Rob is in the Bigfoot, Michigan Rob is in the house. Everybody behave yourself.
Watch it now. We don't want you messing the house up here. But poltergeists do some really freaky things. They can materialize things, and that sounds very demonic. They can materialize things in the house like rocks. They can throw rocks in the house or at the house. They can materialize writing on the walls and stuff like that. That's to me sounds very demonic. It doesn't sound like an adolescent type psychic energy kind of a thing. But that's what the word poltergeist means. Always he goes.
Somebody living in home. The majority of the time I can link it to somebody living in the home and having that activity coming off of them. And usually it's some adolescent going buddy that getting deep into drugs and stuff. To say. But you know, kind of a connection. Most of the time, about 75% of the time. The other 25% of the time of my investigations, I found out that poltergeist activity is actually demonic in nature. You know, I don't know about the rest of the people, but that's just what I've experienced. Good morning to the Cryptid Huntress. So we got everybody in the house this morning. But you know, I just find it fascinating that someone so young or someone so connected to say that can have that capability of moving said objects and having objects be thrown across the room and change the whole atmosphere of the room to make it real heavy and dense. You know, when they don't have that capability to begin with. So what I'm wondering too with that whole scenario is if they actually did have that capability, but you know, like someone crying for help that's not receiving help, no one noticed it. You know what I mean?
Well,
no one tried to nurture that part or
yeah. I'll tell you, here's another thing. Like I said many times before, demons are definitely opportunists. They will take an opportunity, and if there is some kind of kinetic buildup of pre-adolescent type energy there, they may take that and use it. So you may have a combination of both, the adolescent energy and the demonic thing going on. I think some of that could have been responsible for the very famous case of the Bell Witch, which was, I think was written about so much. I think it was more demonic than people let on. It's not just a mere poltergeist. That it may have began with the energy of that young girl that was dating the guy. You might remember the story. And it might have began with that, but the demons took the ball and ran with it. You know, they do that a lot.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do.
That's what my grandmother used to say. You give the devil an inch, and he will take the ruler, or take the whole yardstick. That's just the way they work, and that's another sign of the demonic too, William. They do things in an overt manner. If you were a human spirit were to move this cup, they might move it from one end to the other. The demon picks it up and throws it. They have a malicious, destructive nature to them. They're not going to do anything halfway. They're going to go all
Right.
out with it, and that's just how they operate.
No, I'm gonna say something here. That's probably gonna disturb some people out there. But my girl, as a very young child, those of you that know me know how I grew up. You know what kind of parent. Um, I just don't want to get into all that. Today, I was on my mother's lap in the recliner in the corner of the room and the living room, and she felt the need to grab me and my sister up and our dog and back into their master bedroom, into their bedroom, my parents' bedroom, and slammed it and closed the door, um, locking it behind us. She put us all on the bed, including the dog, and the bed faced outward, and the to walk in the bedroom was on the wall to the right side. Okay, to give you a kind of a layout. And the next thing that happened was that door started rattling, and I mean it was rattling. Okay, to the point where it was almost basically coming off the hinges. Um, the next thing I know, the door flies open, and I'm expecting to see somebody standing there, and there was nobody standing there. Okay, there was a mist.
Nobody could see.
A reddish, yeah, a reddish kind of a mist. Okay, like a fog, a real faint fog. The entity came in the room, picked up the bed, the bottom of the bed, lifted that bed up, probably 4 feet in the air. And remind you, this is a king size bed with a box spring and a mattress on it, and it's a heavy wood frame. Okay, so it weighs some weight. Anyways, picked it up about 4 feet in the air and slammed it back down on the floor. Not only did it do it once, not only did it do it twice, it did it 3 times. Lifted it up and slammed it back down on the floor. Okay. At the last time, our dog, which was a poodle, and anybody that owns poodles knows very well that they are very in tune to the environment around them. Started going after whatever this was. She was and all that, and my mom told her, told me to pull the dog back. So I pulled the dog back, and the room got really cold. And that red mist. My mother always had a wooden chair next to her the bed, by the head of the bed, and in that chair, that red mist started. Okay.
Well, here's the interesting thing.
Just as
here's the
started
thing about
to
that.
hold on, just as it started to form. Okay. To form, the mist out the door. Okay. I turned to my mother. She went out and she closed the bedroom door again, and I turned to my mother and I asked her. I said, what was that red mist? And she goes, that was the devil wanting his chair back. Okay. Now there is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a thing called
the nature of the beast, William. Of the demons they are very possessive of things. They're like territorial, like we were talking about earlier about dogs being territorial. They're very territorial beings. Also, and here's another thing, and I've been in certain situations where I would tell people, I could sit here and tell you stories from now till tomorrow of the things that people foolishly do. But I've often told people if I was in a group and there was a spirit there like that, I would say, look, if your faith is weak, if you don't feel right, you don't feel good, you're worried and all that, get out of here now, okay? Because these things go after the weakest link in the chain. They'll do it every time. The
Mm-hmm.
weakest person in the room is who they, or if it's not a person, it can be an animal like a dog or a cat or a baby, a small child. They go after the weakest point there. You understand what I'm saying? Especially if you're weak in faith. If
Well,
they know that you have a lot of faith, they're not gonna mess with you. Okay. They feel that they're like predators. They can smell blood, so to speak, and when it comes to spiritual things.
well,
So I always warn people,
I
about that.
had a, I had, yeah, yeah, I had a sisters who shall remain, and one of them always used to tease me when I was really small about how my parents made with the devil to have a son. Okay, and because they all had girls. Their whole throughout their marriage, my dad only had girls. He didn't have a son. Um, Finally, left me out of seven completely. I was son. So we all know the number seven, and we all know that kind of a. So
Son of
when I
seven
say I
sons.
grew up,
Yeah.
when I say I
Let me tell you.
grew up
Let me tell you
paranormal, I mean
a quick
I
story.
grew up paranormal.
Yeah. Let me tell you a quick story,
Yeah, go
and
ahead.
it concerned a priest who had just gone into the priesthood, and they sent him to the Vatican because when he had to take over for this older priest who retired, who was the local exorcist, and they sent him to the Vatican to train under the main exorcist. And so he went there to meet the main exorcist. He was an older guy, of course, he's an older man. And while they were there, this little old lady came in. This is a true story. The little lady came in, real nice little old lady. She looked like she may have been
Yeah.
wet. She might have weighed 90 pounds. Nice little old lady. And the head priest, the main priest, said, "Sit down here, and I'll get to you momentarily." He was talking to the young priest, and he told the young priest, that he had to deal with this woman, and the young priest said, "Well, what's wrong with her?" He said, "Well, she's demon possessed." And the young priest said, "Well, that can't be. She's a nice old lady. She's sweet, nice looking old. How could that be?" And the old priest said, "Well, you just don't understand what you're dealing with, son. But that's what I'm going to teach you." And the phone rang in the next room, and the old priest said, "Hold on a minute, I got to go answer the phone." So he goes, he leaves the room, and the young priest is sitting there looking at this old lady. He's scared of her. What in the world? What am I going to do in here by myself? But all of a sudden, the little old lady got up and grabbed this 500-pound desk chair, was holding it in one hand over him and shaking it. "I'm going to kill you," kind of a thing. And the older priest come back in. He calmly took the chair away from the old lady and set it down, put her back in it. And the young priest was shaking in his boots. And the old priest said, "Don't pay any attention to that. It's just theoretics. They just doing that to scare you." So the lesson of that story is that's a lot about the demons. They're a lot about image. They want to scare you, create that negativity, that worry, that bad vibe, or that bad juju, or whatever you want to call it, so that they can feed off of that and make themselves stronger. That's why you have to, when you deal with that type of a spirit. Now, human spirit don't do that. Human spirits may feed off of energy, like drain batteries and stuff like that, in order to manifest a little bit. But that's basically all that they're trying to do, and that's why they supposedly. I have to differ about this about EMF fields. We always used to have EMF detectors, I don't think they're actually creating EMF when they're trying to get there. I think they're actually parting the natural EMF field around us. And there may be an aberration in that, when they do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think the spirit itself is creating EVP type stuff. It could be, but it may not be a whole lot, especially not a human spirit, as opposed to a demonic spirit.
Right.
But you can see the power of the demonic is there because you're dealing with a different being. We as humans, our spiritual energy is not on that level per se that we know of, or we can't connect to it if it is. You know what I'm saying? But you talked about the skinwalker ceremony. I think a lot of that spiritual energy has to do with a lot of that. What you're doing there in the belief system that you're doing when you're using it.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing right there. The connection to the ceremonies. And I got into that last night. I've done flesh offerings. I've done the blood sacrifice. I've done the ceremonies of my people that my family guardian wanted me to do. And just growing up knowing that I had siblings saying that made my determination to make myself even stronger in ceremony, human being on this planet. My own mother, who was the Black Witch, was training to be the most powerful in witchcraft, in the dark arts, on the whole planet. The things that I had the ability of doing when I was involved in all that, that I manifested.
But that's why I said so many
it was
times,
like
William.
superhuman.
That's what these people are connecting up to the demonic for that very reason, that power, that they get off of. That's what that connection is with
now,
witchcraft and the black art.
Even now, I can feel it. Yeah, even now, though, Dennis, I can feel it. Even just talking about real power coming back to me. Okay, but that's just me. I am like a battery when it comes to that. When I need to make a connection to Mother Earth, I need to make a connection to Mother Earth. Okay, because until you not know your true power, your true worth. Okay, you need to make that connection to Mother Earth. You need to take your shoes off, okay, and get out there in the mud and curve your toes up into that mud and into that grass. Okay, and realize that is your connection. Okay, that's where your power comes from. Your faith comes from the Creator. Your power comes from your mother.
Yeah, that's where the connection is for good. Of course, you can take that and use it good in a bad way, just like you can do anything else. Like you can take a hammer, build a house, or kill somebody with it. The intent is what determines the outcome. Okay, but when you deal with demonic forces, they not only will empower you, but they will corrupt you. They will turn you definitely from the light. That's a whole different ball game, and that's what's so dangerous about that aspect of it. What they can do to you in your intellect, your physical, and your spiritual aspects. That's what you have to be very careful with, because they are enemies of all of the whole ball of wax, not just one thing. But now, when you talk about natural energy of the earth, it's there to be tapped into. Like I said, you can use it for good or bad. Well, mostly your intention is good, and you get a good thing out of it. If it's a positive thing, you get a positive thing out of it. But if you do the negative, you're going to get negative. And that's why I've said so many times about the demonic spirits and even the human spirits. you don't empower them by letting them power up. You got to stop them from doing that. If you don't, then you got a big problem on your hands. That's why I told people so many times, time and time
Right.
after again, please get in touch with me before this gets too bad. Because the longer it goes, the worse it will become, the stronger they become, the harder it is to get rid of them. Like I said, a lot people have gotten corrupted by Hollywood. They think this certain way Hollywood tells you. Exorcisms, you just don't walk in and they're over in about 90 minutes or 2 hours. You walk out. They don't work that way. Exorcisms take a long time, especially if the demon has gotten stronger. You're not gonna. It's not gonna be over in
Right.
maybe even weeks before you can free somebody. Uh, so you don't want to be in that situation. If you can avoid that, avoid it at all costs. Uh, and by taking their
Yeah.
power away from them, their ability to power up off of negativity, whether it be drug use, alcohol, gambling, porno, whatever the situation is, the more negativity they can get out of you, the more stronger, the more of a hold they will have on you. That's what you don't want to do. That's where you don't want to go. Now, human spirit is a completely different ball game, because even a malevolent
Right.
human spirit is not as bad as a demon spirit. I'm sorry to say, but they're not. No different thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Human spirits, I don't worry about. You treat them with respect, okay? Unless they are truly evil, then you just take care of them, the way you're taught to. Um, but my whole point of bringing that up is that the connection is such a strong connection, and then you put the possible curse on top of it that or not kind of a punishment. But growing up, I always had that feeling like I wasn't, I wasn't really here for my parents, if you know what I mean. I was here for something else, and that's why now. That's why now when I do ceremony to protect people. I use all my medicine strength. Okay, it'll completely drain me, but the medicine strength I do for ceremony, yeah, the spiritual strength I use for ceremony that I encompass around the individual I'm doing to protect at a certain point in time, whether it's from a dog man, whether it's from Bigfoot, it's from a skinwalker, okay. And yes, those out there, I have done the skinwalker ceremony. Okay, I've been there, done that. Okay, I don't need to get into all that again. All right. Um, I've done more ceremony that I can't even talk about that is worse than a skinwalker ceremony. Believe it or not. So, but anyways, you know,
But
the whole ghost thing and the
that's very
spirit
much
thing.
in some ways,
That,
voodoo, William. I've seen voodoo uh, ceremonies where they allow the spirits to come into them. That's the number one thing about the dancing and the spirits, the drums, the whole works. It's nothing but opening themselves up like a doorway for the spirits to enter in and take possession of them. And they call that being ridden by the spirits, like riding a horse, but they ride a human. And they contort, they fall around, and like you said, and that's what made me think about that. After it's over and the spirits leave them, they're just completely exhausted. They're not only physically exhausted,
right,
but they're spiritually and mentally exhausted as well. It affects all of your whole body,
right,
your being. You know, that's what can be dangerous too.
right.
If you're not careful, you have to be careful. You don't know how far to push the envelope. You know.
Yep. Another time in the house growing up where we grew up, there was an incident. My parents had left the house for the evening, um, and the neighbor on the corner was going to watch us. My sister, little, I think I was maybe 6 years old at the time. And we're playing on the floor in the living room. It's the fall time of the year, so it's a little bit of crisp in the air. So I always like next to the floor registers, heat would come up, and keep my feet warm. I'd always have my feet against the register, and I'd play there. And I noticed the lamp in the dining room starting to sway, and I knew as soon as it swayed that something told me that inside my head that the light was going to start to flicker, and sure enough, it flickered and swaying. And I started thinking to myself, this is it. It's going to happen, And the woman that was watching us, the neighbor that was watching us, was sitting in the same chair that my mom sits, and she looked, and my sister was in the center of the living room playing with her dolls or whatever, and TV. Next thing I know, we hear this real loud on the floor, okay, and it percussioned through the floor like something just hit the floor really hard, and it happened again, okay, and I just I looked at the babysitter, the neighbor, and she goes, would you go downstairs and see what that noise is? Wanted to make sure, that apparently, being a boy, I'd know what a noise was down there with a furnace or whatnot. You never know. So I go down the steps, and I get down, and our steps went down like 7, 8 steps, and then you were on a platform, and then it turned, and about 7 or 8 more steps, and the bottom of the steps was dark, okay, and it was open, okay, like the backs of the steps were open, like a deck porch, steps outside, right, and I always had this feeling that something was going to reach through it and grab me at the ankles, and so I never went past that platform, okay. And I peeked down. I looked down and I peeked down in the basement, and I didn't see anything wrong. So I ran back up and told her. I said, I didn't see anything down there. Well, a couple seconds later, as soon as I said that, another boom on the floor. And anyways, she goes down the basement this time. She goes all the way down in the basement. And mind you, we have an artesian well in the basement too. So that kind of an energy is really, really powerful. Okay. That's a whole nother story. But anyways, she gets down in the basement. Next thing I know, I hear her scream and run back upstairs. And she grabs me and my sister, and she takes us outside. She puts us on the front yard, our front yard, just outside the house. And she runs down to her house. Well, next thing I know, in a couple minutes, she's running back up, and she's got a 357 Magnum in her hand. Okay, and she's running down in the basement. Okay, and next thing I know, we hear this bam, like a gunshot, and she comes back up. She goes, call the police. I just shot somebody down there, but they didn't fall. They ran through the door of the basement. And so they call the police show up, and I hear her saying to the cops, but I shot it, and it didn't stop. It just kept on going. It didn't even phase it. It like went right through it. I shot it. I know I shot it. She's saying this to the cop over and over again. And the cop's like, well, we went in and checked, and there's a bullet hole in the basement wall, but there's no blood, no nothing. And me and my sister just kind of looked at each other because we knew what was going on. This was normal activity for us in our house growing up. Normal activity. Okay, so when I say I grew up in a haunted house, I grew up in a haunted house
A
and
real
very,
haunted
very,
house.
yeah, very, very, very active property too with the paranormal. So
Well, I was sitting here
it was
listening to
real.
that story about the 357, and if the 357 don't stop it, you're in big trouble. But anyway, what I was going to say is this: I used to carry shotgun shells in my kit that was loaded with rock salt and it's blessed. The bullet's blessed. But they say supposedly, I never had the opportunity to do it, that you can shoot and dissipate a spirit with rock salt, which is just like regular sea salt in some aspects, only it's in granular type form. Anyway, I never did that, but I've often wondered if that really would work. That's what I always heard. So I carried one just in case. You never know. You always have a plan B. But if the silver bullet stop a werewolf, salt should stop a ghost. But that's the way that goes anyway. But I've seen what a 357 Magnum can do, and that can stop just about anything. So if she just really actually shot a living
That's
thing,
true. That's true.
it was definitely lit down there.
Well, and the funny part about the whole thing too,
the babysitter wanted to babysit, right?
yeah.
It was the end
Well,
of it.
well, the funny thing about that too, Dennis, is the fact that within a couple months, her and her family moved out of that house that they lived in by us and moved miles away from us. Okay.
Oh,
They didn't want anything to do with.
They didn't want to stay in the neighborhood.
No.
But here's the interesting thing, William. If you were to go back to that house today, if it still exists, you would probably still encounter the same things. Usually they won't, unless somebody's come in and taken care of it. They don't usually leave. There's a stain that remains there. That's what our friend Jessica Jones was talking about corpse wood the other night. The whole area is probably contaminated by what went on there. The dark practices that were done, the spiritual doorways that were opened and never closed. That's what you run into in these certain situations.
Which we got to represent Jess Jones and Bigfoot Michigan Rob in the chat. Anybody that knows these two individuals, these two superstars, I want you to friend them. I want you to make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channels. Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I did brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. We actually had brunch. It was tea, crumpets. We played golf. That kind of stuff. But no, I'm teasing. I don't play golf. I shoot birdies. I don't hit them with a stick. Anyway, if you can, go to War Woman's Goods on Etsy and support Jessica with her merchandise that she sells. She sells some beautiful jewelry. I know this sounds like a commercial.
Very beautiful jewelry for sale.
Yeah, I know this. I know this sounds like a commercial, but if you notice on the bottom of the screen too, I have Gerald's watchers information on the bottom of the screen on YouTube channel, and I also have Darkwood's Facebook group on the bottom of the screen. Those two are in the chat. They are always in the chat. I love you guys very much. You guys are family. I will do what it takes to support my other brothers and sisters out there. There are pastors that have groups that have, things going on, as best as I can with my capability, voice. Um, but yeah, if you can check out Bigfoot Mig and Rob, okay, they are more than welcome to put links in the chat if they, or they could send me the information for tomorrow's podcast in Messenger, and I'll make sure it's on the bottom of the with all the others. Okay, but I do appreciate them all for it. And we need to remember that we are one big family. Okay, we're here for each other. So, and that includes in the chat too. You in here? I wanted to say hello, and Katie, I wanted to say hello. Now, getting back into the thick of things with the ghosts and stuff. Um, there is so much death and despair in this world. And it's everywhere. We see a heightened activity in the paranormal, and I don't mean like a 1 or 2%. I mean 150% heightened activity in the paranormal lately. You hear people talking about things that you would never imagine that they would have happen. You hear about people that have never had anything paranormal happen to them at all, and all of a sudden they're having all kinds of activity, without any reason or cause to their knowledge. It's just amazing the amount
that to me,
that it's
William,
increased.
that to me is a definite demonic connection. To me, that tells me big time that the demonic is working in this world overtime. It's pushing an envelope. It's doing what it needs to do. Only it's more heightened now than ever before. Why? There's got to be a reason why. What do you think the reason is?
Yeah, well, I was talking with Joe, a good friend of mine. You all probably know Joe and Jesse from the Hellbent Holler podcast on YouTube, and they are good friends of mine. And we were talking yesterday a little bit in Messenger, and he had asked me what I thought was going on with the activity in the area. And I told him, I said, there's a couple of reasons why we're seeing this activity increase, okay? And having the evil feeling around us all the time now. And I said, number one, that it is all of the satanic groups have been building power over the last several years, okay? These satanic groups have been going on every part of North America and holding ceremonies, okay? They have consecrated grounds, numerous across our country, okay, across the United States and Canada, okay, and probably even parts of Mexico, okay? They have consecrated ground in the name of, okay? They have called forth demons in the name of Satan. They have done blood sacrifices in the name of Satan. This is why. Okay. Another reason why is because we, as honest, creator, God-fearing individuals, have turned our backs chose to ignore the fact that this was going on. Okay. Then you put on top of that, you put the whole our young people nowadays have been coerced through Hollywood, through movies, through music, through video games, to embrace evil, to that evil is good, okay? That evil can make you strong, that evil can make you invincible, that a gun is an extension of the fist, okay? It's not true. Okay, take it from somebody who's been there. Okay, it's not true. It doesn't make you strong. It doesn't make you invincible. Okay, it makes you a puppet.
And here's another
Um,
aspect, William. Here's another aspect we got to look at, okay? And there's the number one rule in demonology: you don't mention the names of demons, because you give them attention, you get their attention. Okay, when you give them attention, you get their attention, and you don't want to do that. And I think that's what people have done.
right.
A lot of this by the things you're talking about right there, the things they've engaged in, the movies, the games, the different things that they're glorifying the demonic and the deviltry that goes on. No wonder the power is increasing. No wonder the activity is growing greater. They can't do anything but that because they are feeding
Yeah.
the monster. They are feeding the beast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that old saying. That old Cherokee saying where the young man goes to the medicine man, the elder, and he's I'm getting so mean and so hateful towards my family and my friends, and the tribe as a whole. And the old man goes, well, you know what? You got two wolves inside of you, one good, one evil, and they're fighting. Okay, and that is making you aggressive. You know, making you basically on the edge of everything. And the elder, and he goes, well, what do I do? How do I know which one will win? Which one of the wolves will win? The good one or the bad one? The evil one? And he goes, whichever. You know, it's true. We all have capability within us, and if I can come out of that dark place, okay, and I can sit here today, with death experiences too, and all that, you know, and see on a day basis what I see. Dennis, you probably do, but I see literally everything, and that's why you'll be watching the podcast, and you'll see me look off, or you'll see me look up, or you see me look to my left or my right or down. It's because I see things. Okay, it's almost like a transparency film put over top of another transparency film, and I'm seeing things. Okay, that's just the way it's with me. That's the way my life is. Okay, because I've been to that dark place. I've been on the cusp of being into the dead realm. Okay, I've been there. All right, I've walked. My own um, best friend tells me that I'm one that walks in both worlds. You know, I just am. And I always
When
have
you
been.
when you walk in two different worlds like that, it changes you, and you become more hypersensitive
Yeah.
to these things. And people need to understand that's where we're coming from on that. We become hypersensitive to this because we've experienced it. We've been there. You know, I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just to talk a little bit today about ghosts and Dennis ghosts today. We got into a little bit of the shadow people and a little bit of this, that, and the other thing, and a little bit of storytelling, which is, by the way, fiction. And there'll be a lot more coming in a book, hopefully, if I can actually get my butt to write it. Yeah, I mean the whole paranormal realm is such a wide, vast, open area encompassing everything, and that's why, Dennis, I always say question everything. Okay, you need to question everything, plain and simple. You need to use all your senses and investigate it on your own. Figure out what it is. Figure out why it's there, why it's happening. What it's capable of doing. That kind of stuff. Question everything. You know. With that note, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Tomorrow we will be getting the subject matter of I, I would like to do but we could always continue where we're at and just see where that goes too. So, as with any Saturday and Sunday programming with us, it's kind of a hit or miss because we always go off the rails, and I think that's what makes it unique and makes it fun. To talk about everything, everything. So, with that being said, we will see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Okay, Eastern, and have your coffee ready. I'm going to actually use the coffee maker tomorrow morning to make coffee because I have been out of coffee completely for the last hour, and I don't do that. So, and I'm sure Dennis is out of coffee, but we will see you all. We'll see you all in the morning, okay? And like, heart, and share this out, and subscribe, okay? And go to Night Midwest Night Watchers. Go to Darkwoods Facebook group. Check out Big Michigan Rock. Check out just Encrypted Hunters on Etsy. Check out D.A. Roberts Ex Machina. Okay. Podcast on YouTube on Saturdays and Wednesday nights. And even Robbie, one of DA's guys, has a, which is very interesting. So there's so many of us out there that need to have people come and just listen and enjoy themselves, while they're doing it. So we'll see you all in the morning. Okay. For like, heart, and share.